Sandhurst controversy. On Wednesday, August 5, 2026, on the immaculately manicured grounds of the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, in Surrey, England, a ceremony took place that reverberated far beyond the borders of the United Kingdom. Hundreds of officer cadets stood at rigid attention for the Sovereign's parade, 238 to be precise, with 40 among them being international cadets from 31 countries. It was the climax of 44 grueling weeks of intense physical, tactical, and psychological conditioning in the commissioning course 253. Among those receiving their commissions were two young Ugandan officers, Cadet Officer Andrew Bakira Ruyondo and Private Ruhamya Kainerugaba. To an outside observer, it was another international commissioning parade at one of the world's most elite military academies. But in the eyes of a political analyst, the presence of one specific cadet carried immense geopolitical weight. Ruhamya Kainerugaba is no ordinary cadet. He is the son of General Museveni Kainerugaba, the Chief of Defense Forces of the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and the grandson of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who has led Uganda since 1986. 27 years prior, in August 1999, General Museveni walked those exact same grounds at Sandhurst, in a similar manner. Today, history appears to be repeating itself in real time. So this begs one question: is Ruhamya's graduation simply a young man following in his father's patriotic footsteps, or are we witnessing the deliberate multi-generational grooming of a military and political dynasty destined to control Uganda for decades to come? To understand why Ruhamya's graduation has sparked such intense debate, one must first understand the institution itself.
The Royal Military Academy.
Founded in the year 1812 in its modern form in Camberley, Surrey, the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst is not merely a school for soldiers, it is a global training ground for monarchs, heads of state, and commanders-in-chief. For over 2 centuries, Sandhurst has imparted a rigorous doctrine encapsulated in its famous motto, "Serve to lead." But historically, Sandhurst has also served as an incubator for political power across the Commonwealth and the Middle East. Since its establishment, the Academy has earned an unrivaled reputation for producing officers who have gone on to command armies, lead nations, and shape global security. Unlike conventional universities, Sandhurst is not an academic degree institution. Instead, it is Britain's elite officer training academy, where officer cadets undergo one of the world's most demanding military leadership programs. The course combines rigorous physical endurance, battlefield tactics, military ethics, leadership, decision-making, and character development, with cadets expected to lead under extreme pressure. International cadets from allied countries train alongside British Army officer cadets, reflecting Sandhurst's long-standing role in developing military leaders from around the world. Sandhurst's alumni list reads like a roll call of global leadership. The Academy has trained renowned figures including former British Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill, King Abdullah II of Jordan, the late Sultan Qaboos of Oman, members of the British royal family including Prince William and Prince Harry, as well as numerous presidents, monarchs and senior military commanders from Africa, Asia, Europe and the Middle East. Its graduates have commanded armed forces, led peacekeeping missions and occupied the highest political offices in their respective countries, cementing Sandhurst's reputation as one of the world's premier military academies. In Africa, the Academy's influence runs deep. Among its best-known African alumni are Ian Khoma, the former president of Botswana, Yakubu Gowon, Nigeria's former head of state, Kabaka Mutesa II, first president of Uganda, Lieutenant Ian Kagame, son of Rwandan President Paul Kagame, as well as several senior military commanders from Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and other Commonwealth countries who sent their elite officers here to absorb British doctrine, strategic command and diplomatic networking. When General Museveni Kainerugaba joined Sandhurst in 1999, his enrollment was seen as the first step in building an elite, modern foundation for the Uganda People's Defense Force. Museveni would later serve as Commander of the Special Forces Command, Commander of Land Forces, and ultimately Chief of Defense Forces. Now, 27 years later, Museveni has sent his own son, Private Ruhamya Kainerugaba, into the exact same crucible. The commissioning parade of August 5, 2026, marked a momentous milestone for Uganda's military representation in the UK. While public focus heavily gravitated toward President Museveni's grandson, the parade delivered a historic crowning achievement for Uganda through Cadet Andrew Bakira Ruyondo. Ruyondo was officially awarded the International Sword, also known as the Overseas Sword, recognizing him as the single best-performing international officer cadet in his entire intake cohort. Sponsored by Kuwait's Ministry of Defense in memory of Sheikh Ali al-Sabah, this prestigious award is given to the cadet who demonstrates exceptional leadership, physical endurance, tactical acumen, and academic excellence. Ruyondo, who hails from the historic Ruyondo family of Burunga in Kaizo district with deep roots in the National Resistance Army struggle, etched his name onto Sandhurst's permanent honours board under Bakira, Uganda. Ruhamya had officially joined the UPDF in mid-2025 as a private, a milestone his father publicly celebrated on social media, posting side-by-side photos comparing his own cadet days in 1999 with his son's in 2026, writing, "Father and son going through the same hardships, separated by 27 years, God bless Ruhamya." While state officials and government supporters celebrated the duo's achievement, with State Minister Balam Barugahara publicly tweeting congratulations to Commander 1 and family, the reaction among the broader Ugandan public and diaspora was far more complex and polarized.
We are calling on Sandhurst to stop the training of Muhoozi, Muhoozi's son, Muhoozi's brother, and all the cousins. Museveni of Uganda has brought royalty in this beautiful institution.
For critics and opposition commentators, Ruhamya's military trajectory feels all too familiar. When General Muhoozi Kainerugaba returned from Sandhurst in 2000, his rapid rise through the ranks from second lieutenant to four-star general and head of the armed forces sparked the moniker the Muhoozi Project, a phrase coined by critics alleging a calculated plan to prepare him to succeed his father.
Take Uganda forward. It was done in Cuba when Fidel Castro stepped aside. It was done in North Korea.
Now, seeing President Museveni's grandson complete the exact same Sandhurst pipeline has intensified public scrutiny. Critics contend that elite international military appointments are disproportionately accessible to the ruling family, laying the groundwork for a three-generation political and military dynasty.
Enough is enough!
Enough is enough!
Enough is enough!
Enough is enough!
All the brutal dictators around the world,
Yes.
they've been trained in Sandhurst.
Yes!
You go to Pakistan,
Yes!
Musharraf was one of them.
Yes!
He was trained here. You go to Afghanistan, they were trained here. You go to Rwanda, they were trained here. You go to Southern Sudan, they are trained in Sandhurst. You go to Uganda, it's a family affair. If you belong to the first family, whether you went to college or not, they will accept you as long as Sandhurst defending the brutal dictator.
But again, perhaps one important question is, who can join Sandhurst? The basic requirements to attend Royal Military Academy Sandhurst are as follows: 1. Be an officer candidate in the British Army, or be nominated by your country's military. You cannot apply directly as a civilian. 2. Be at least 18 years old, meet the required educational qualifications, be medically fit, pass physical fitness tests, pass officer selection and leadership assessments, and have a clean disciplinary and security record. Then 3. Have good English language skills, and on this, all international cadets must also be able to study and train in English, regardless of their country's national language.
I think it's been really good, sir. There's a lot of training value, like I mentioned when we chatted earlier. I think the 44 weeks has really culminated into something massive. You sometimes kind of don't feel what you're learning. Sometimes it's just that those minor things that you learn.
From the basic requirements, international students are nominated and sponsored by their respective governments or armed forces, with most already serving as officer cadets in their national militaries, and candidates are expected to demonstrate strong leadership potential, physical fitness, intellectual ability and impeccable discipline before earning a place at the academy. Since we are talking about Uganda, only a relatively small number of Ugandans have graduated from Sandhurst in history. Among the earliest and most distinguished Ugandan graduates were Sir Edward Frederick Mutisa II, the Kabaka of Buganda and Uganda's first president, who received military training during the colonial period before later assuming national leadership. Decades later, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, Uganda's current Chief of Defence Forces, graduated from Sandhurst in 2000 after joining the Uganda People's Defence Force as an officer cadet. As earlier mentioned, his career has since seen him command the Elite Special Forces Command, serve as Commander of Land Forces and eventually rise to become the country's highest-ranking serving military officer. Another distinguished graduate is General Wilson Basum Mbadi, the former Chief of Defence Forces and now State Minister for Trade. General Mbadi remains the only Ugandan to have received the coveted Queen's Sword, awarded to the best all-round officer cadet in a graduating intake. Also counted among Uganda's Sandhurst-trained senior officers is Brigadier General Mark Kodili, whose career has included several influential command appointments within the UPDF. Together, these officers demonstrate the enduring influence Sandhurst has had on Uganda's military leadership and the professional development of the country's leadership and senior military commanders. Therefore, there has been rising public controversy and criticism in Uganda that perhaps Sandhurst is being utilized as a brand-polishing finishing school, ensuring that military authority remains firmly anchored within the first family and their cronies. Conversely, defenders of the establishment argue that patriotism and public service are legitimate family traditions. They point out that President Museveni himself advised his son and grandson that military discipline instills character and selfless devotion to the state. Furthermore, supporters highlight Andrew Bakira Ruyondo's triumph as proof that Ugandan selection for Sandhurst is grounded in elite capability and meritocracy. And in the aftermath of the August 5th graduation, various other sub-Saharan African countries whose exceptional cadets underwent the rigorous doctrine as part of the 40 international cadets from 31 countries didn't fail to celebrate their sons' achievements. These included Kenya, which had sponsored Cadet Isaac Linkume, the Gambia, which had sponsored Cadet Omar Toure, Ivory Coast, which had sponsored 2 cadets, that is Koulibaly Sheikh Kudus and Kofi Mohai Hugh Sairak, Ghana, which had sponsored Cadet Awuni Adams, and Nigeria, which had sponsored its own Cadet Adenkule Joseph Titileya, among other countries. Anyway, as Second Lieutenants Andrew Bakira Ruyondo and Ruhamya Kainerugaba prepare to return home to serve in the UPDF, they enter a military institution at a crucial juncture in East Africa's geopolitical landscape. For Cadet Ruyondo, winning the international sword places him among an elite cadre of global military strategists from whom great operational leadership is expected. For Ruhamya Kainerugaba, on the other hand, every promotion, every assignment, and every public statement will be viewed through the powerful lens of history and family legacy. Whether he chooses a purely professional military career or eventually steps into the political arena, his graduation from Sandhurst on August 5, 2026, marks the opening chapter of a narrative that will shape Uganda's political future. Actually, Ruhamya Kainerugaba is perhaps not the only grandson of General Museveni that is being groomed for future military roles or political leadership. We say this because as he was undergoing the Sandhurst rigorous training 6,500 kilometers away from home, his grandfather seemed to be apprenticing or familiarizing 2 of his cousins from his aunt Natasha Karagirek with military operations. The grandsons are Mugina Karagirek and his younger brother Samuri Tandeka Karagire, and they were conspicuously seen accompanying their grandfather President Museveni in back-to-back military pass-out ceremonies. That is on July 9, 2026 at Kaweweta, where close to 12,000 enlisted and non-commissioned officers graduated, and on July 10, 2026 at the National Defence College in Jinja, where Museveni presided over the graduation of senior commissioned officers of the UPDF. The impression that this attendance of the 2 youngsters from Museveni's daughter created was that perhaps he was teaching them first-hand military leadership and conduct, in preparation for future roles if they ever wished to join military or political lifestyles. Anyway, Sandhurst has trained kings, presidents, and generals who reshaped their nations. Time will tell whether Ruhamya Kainerugaba is simply an officer serving his nation, or a leader being groomed for its highest seat of power.